Yes, so I'm happy to have Andrewhillam, who is the director of Joyce Yoga in Encinitas, who actually generously became our Empower sponsor for International Yoga Day Global Campaign. And I'm so honored to have Andrew, who is a director there in beautiful Encinitas, Southern California, to share his journey a little bit with yoga. And it's been a long time, Andrew, to see you.
That's right, long time.
Yeah.
And thank you. And really the thanks has to go to our founder of Joyce Yoga. So Sonia Jones, she was very happy and ready to sponsor this initiative. So I'd like to thank her and you as well for doing such a really important thing, really important work.
Thank you so much. Yes, Sonia is a major Ashtanga yoga practitioner, and I'm so grateful that she joined our campaign and became a top sponsor. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now we have Julie from your studio who's helping our work too.
Yeah.
Hi, Julie.
Very nice.
Julie's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel very connected to you guys. So thank you so much. So, of course, last couple of months we've been, especially in the yoga community in the world, we are really concerned about what's going on in India. Usually, I'm sure, I don't know, how many times have you been to India, Andrew?
I don't know, maybe 20 times since
Wow.
2001, probably 20 times at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly all of us suddenly couldn't go there anymore, and
Right.
it's been very stressful
Yeah.
to just hear the news. And I would love to know how you were taking in all the news, and what was your reaction when you started hearing all this COVID-19 crisis?
Well, of course I was concerned, and I, having known what's been going on prior, and I, because of the pandemic, when I travel to India, I always I have teachers that I study with, apart from Sharat at the Ashtanga, at his yoga center. I also take classes with other people, Professor Nagaraja Rao, who's a great Sanskrit, he's a great Sanskrit scholar, highly recognized in India. And I have another Sanskrit teacher, as well as a chanting teacher. So I see them a lot, but fortunately I had already set up, prior to the pandemic, I'd set up video classes with them. So I was already doing that. That's become a lot easier now. Everyone's doing it. But so I'm in touch with those people daily sometimes. And so I was hearing the stories firsthand, and I was talking to my Sanskrit teacher in Bangalore, and he told me, he works in one of the colleges there. He said one of the professors in the college, he's only young man and he's 33 or 4 with 2 young children. He passed away from COVID.
Wow.
So, and then within a couple of days, I heard of another great Sanskrit scholar in a place called Melakote, who's really well known in Mysore and that community as well. And he had passed away, and he's done so much in Sanskrit and the study of Sanskrit as it relates to Ayurveda, trying to rediscover a lot of the plants that were used in Ayurveda, some of that knowledge that is in old texts. And he passed away from COVID. And and then I was talking to my other professor, and he was saying, so many people in my family, my extended family, have passed. The father passes, and then within 2 weeks the son. And so it really brings it home. So not only are there's a lot of suffering, but a lot of these people are doing really great things, and their knowledge is going too, as a result of this. And so the world is losing some really amazing people. So it was very it's been very close in that way, as it has, I know, for many people and for most people. I think where I am in California, and because of I can teach, or I have been teaching from online, it's meant that I've been able to avoid a lot of the consequences of the pandemic personally. You know, so I've been fairly safe, but then to hear this firsthand daily, you know, we hear about these things, then it's very shocking.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing these stories of losses and struggle from your personal context. And I feel, you know, these are professors and well-educated people.
That's right.
No matter what age group, but so they understood the threat and risk, and they still got it, and some of them died. And I deal with population, many of them are illiterate, so I learned how difficult it is to even share the information in the villages, and you know, like migrant workers, you know, like people who have no money, no information, they have stigma about COVID.
Yes.
And so I just do feel like when you mention like here in California, me too, as a yoga student, I could practice with cell phone, and I still felt like, you know, there was community there and we were supporting each other. But the situation in a country like India is like beyond our imagination, and I feel like there's much deeper divide if we don't do anything, right? So I'm so grateful that yoga communities like yourself, Joyce Yoga, and many people are stepping up and trying to come together to support each other.
Yeah, and I have been working also with Operation Shanti, who are another organization that do very similar work to what you're doing, and so I know a lot of the kids from Operation Shanti is that they've set up a organization where they house and school kids, and they look after people on the street as well. And so, you know, seeing they're discussing, these are people that have no options. They can't stop working. They can't, you know, they're selling vegetables on the street every day. If they don't, the money that they make every day is what they need to survive for that day.
Yeah.
And so they can't avoid, the dangers, you know, and their health is often not in great condition because they work so hard. You know, they get up very early. Some of the people on the street who work on the street selling vegetables, whatever, they push their carts at 4 a.m. to go and buy the vegetables from the market, and then they push them back. It takes them 3 or 4 hours just to do that before they start selling. So these kind of things we don't understand firsthand, but having been to Mysore and seeing those people, and you start to especially spending long periods of time there. One time we spent 1.5 years there, and so you get to know those people. You see them every day, you buy your vegetables from them every day. They're like family. They become like family. You know? And so I know other people who have set up, you know, been trying to, how do we get money to these people who need help because they have no work. A lot of them in Mysore rely on the yoga students as well. So how do we get money and help these people? What can we do?
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting you share these stories because you've been there so many times, you've seen firsthand, but how do you share these kind of experiences with your children, for example?
Well, my children were fortunate enough to have been to Mysore. They lived there for 1.5 years when they were very young, from 2 and 5 years old for 1.5 years, and then they've been back through maybe 4 times for 2 or 3 months at a time. And they know many of these people. We would spend our days going around and to different restaurants, or you know, to buy things from the stores, and they know these people personally. They know the conditions there. They've been to Operation Shanti, for instance, with me, and we play with the kids there. So for my kids, it's easy to explain. To explain, they've seen everything firsthand. And they love all those people, and so they have that, you know, direct compassion And I think that's helped them. I don't know how we explain that to someone that's never experienced or seen those conditions. I mean, you know, so.
Yeah, I do feel like, especially now that news media is not talking much about India anymore, because the huge, you know, crisis with the oxygen supply has been kind of solved, but the real problems really persist, right? And I do feel
That's
now
right.
like that's our job, you know, as a nonprofit organization. This is our job, that to continue to share the information and how much your $10 can really help in India, right? You know
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me who had made a donation, they said, I made a small donation, you know, it doesn't seem very significant. And I said, well, somebody can eat, you know, a meal for 20 rupees. What is that? It's like 25 cents or something.
Yeah.
They can eat a good meal for that much. So it puts your donation in a different perspective. And people have learned, those people that you're trying to help, especially, they've learned how to live on little. So the little that, if we only give a little, it's helpful. If we can give more, it can do a lot, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I appreciate that. That's why, like, also our mantra is here, but it says, for the cost of one yoga class, you can change your life. And it's not just
that's right.
You know, propaganda, but it's true. You know,
that's right.
For the cost of one class, you can really make a huge difference. So that's the power of being in the West and use US dollars or whatever currency, euros. Yeah. But now, thanks for sharing your journey with India. But could you tell us a little bit of your journey with yoga? So you are a yoga teacher for over 20 years, or you've been practicing over 20 years?
Yeah, I've been practicing maybe for 27, 26, 27, 28 years, so something like that. Yeah.
Most of your life, right?
No. About half.
So,
yeah.
So what motivates you or inspires you to practice and teach? What's your aspiration?
Well, you know, when I first started yoga, I think there was something inside that there was an awareness of something inside that was there, but awareness without awareness, let's say that. So when I first started doing asana classes, when I first started learning Ashtanga yoga, I also started reading texts, so yoga sutras and Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. I started reading Krishnamurti, who's a well-known writer and was an enlightened man. He lived in the last half of last century, and also Ramana Maharshi, different people that really opened my eyes to a whole different kind of world. What is this yoga all about? And so from practicing yoga pretty intensely, the physical aspects of yoga for a long time, that somehow has an effect that we can't explain exactly, but we can talk about it in terms from our experience. As you get older, you can't do as much physically, but if you understand the perspective, from what perspective are we practicing yoga, then it means that your yoga practice only deepens, and you feel that it's doing more, and you're not just learning asanas anymore. I like to use this analogy that this thing that I was mentioning, you know, that something that exists that we're aware of, that's within us, you know, we can call it a light. You know, it's often described as a light or something like that, that is there and it's covered over. And for me, if you look at the Ashtanga yoga, it has 8 limbs. We're not just asana practitioners, or we shouldn't be. If we're just asana practitioners, then we're not doing yoga. So we look at that, the yamas and niyamas, which are the rules that we should follow, which are very important. I see those as like a boat. So you have a boat, and we're on one shore of the river, and on the other shore is the light. On this shore is delusion, that the busy mind, the disturbed mind, trying to get through life. And so the yamas and niyamas are like the boat, and then the asana that we do is like a sail on that boat. But and then pranayama, or the prana, is the wind, and that's how the boat moves somewhere. Okay, so you have a boat that's going somewhere, and then you have this last three sanyama, it's called, so dharana, this meditation, last three limbs related to meditation, and that's like the rudder, which is sending you in a specific direction. So where are you heading? You want to head to the other shore. So if you don't have all these things working together, then your boat is just like, it's not really going anywhere. But so when you look at these yamas and niyamas, we hear ahimsa, non-violence, satya, speaking the truth, all these things. If we go to the niyamas, there's one that's not mentioned in Yoga Sutras, which many of the different texts mention more than 5 yamas, more than 5 niyamas. And there's one called dana in the niyamas. And dana, what is dana? It's charity. And it means giving without any expectation of anything back. And so what do the niyamas do? So we think about these rules and regulations that we get given, it's like they're not impositions on us that we have to fit in. Actually, what they are is they're liberating us. So shaucha santosha. So santosha, for instance, is an easy one. Contentment. If we can create more contentment in our minds, we have more clarity and stillness and joy within us. So they're helping us. So in a way, they're selfish, So people think about rules as how you affect those people around you, but actually we're doing that for ourselves. And this dana, this charity, is a really big one. I don't know why it's not in the Yoga Sutras, actually. Why Patanjali wouldn't mention this. It's in the Bhagavata Purana and many other texts. And charity, which is what we're doing if we're giving money or giving something, say through YogaGivesBack, without any expectation. And my experience with dana is that when I've raised money and given it to organizations like this, there's something, I feel like weeping with joy. It does something, to my heart, and it opens up that place in here where you experience more light. So, and in a way that's selfish as well, because it does something for us. So the idea when somebody says, what do you want for Christmas? I say, give some money to this charity. And they say, oh, you should get something. I say, no, because this will make me feel much better than receiving, some gift, some material gift, which will fade away. But so this is yoga, this is real. To me, this is the real yoga. And so all these things that we in Ashtanga yoga we're doing through, it should be going on in our whole life in all different ways. The more we study, the more we realize that every different aspect of our life is touched by the yoga that we're studying. The asana is just so that we can bring some comfort and stability into our mind and our body so that we can be opened up for everything else, right? So the asana is very important, but if we don't go past asana, then what use, really, So that's my, that's why I continue to practice. I continue to practice the physical practice because it keeps the body and the mind stable. It keeps you healthy, but I'm always hoping to, do include these other aspects in everything that I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing this. It's so deep, and I love the way how, you use the analogy of boat, light, shores, and wind.
Yeah, you know, this is very common in the texts when you read many texts, this idea of a boat that takes you to another shore. And we don't need the boat once we get to the other side.
Yeah.
We can discard the boat, but yeah.
I love that. Actually, for the International Yoga Day on the June 19th, we have a discussion about yamas and niyamas with Vera Bender Birch and David Swenson and Lisa Wolford. Yeah, so, and other like humanitarian activists.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned also about dana that's not in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, but it's in the others. Do you think, I just want to learn, is dana, it's not a goal, right? It's things to do. It's what we would like to do.
It's something that we should do, and it's considered to be a very important, the word used is upaya. So it will help you, it will bring, it will improve your own life by doing these upayas. It'll improve your own situation. It'll improve your own mental state. And so dana is, well, when we shaukya santosha tapaswadhyaya ishvara pranidhana are the 5 niyamas. And this is included as one of the other niyamas in other texts.
Interesting.
And so, but everywhere, you know, when you read through the Bhagavata Purana, which has so many stories, there's so many examples of dana, of people often giving away all their wealth in order to reach a higher state. And it's considered to be extremely important in the culture. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, in many ways, I do film stories from India and how your donation is impacting lives and things like that. And because I feel, like you said, in my way, like I think about how St. Francis said, like, by giving you receive.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing, like you said, upaya. You know, when you
upaya.
act, you really actually receive by giving, right? And you,
that's right.
Yeah, you get higher. And my films I share is, I hope that people who can't go to India can see the impact. So by, you know, like Andrew giving $10 to this organization there, and you feel good. And I just want you to see, you know, more like that it's really impacting. But I'm so glad that, you know, glad you shared all this fundamental spiritual aspiration that you live by. And that's why you've been practicing this. And people think Ashtanga yoga is a physical exercise in many ways. Right? And I studied Ashtanga about 14 years ago because of physical exercise. But then, so everyone has to start somewhere, right? But it takes, it has huge impact once you start to learn the text and things like that. It's interesting because people, you know, listening here, yesterday I got a direct message from a yoga teacher in India who was listening Instagram Live, and he wanted to talk about exactly what you're talking about, the text, India's text, because he thinks that in the West, yoga is just asana. He really said, I want to come to this IG Live interview. So I said, you know, like, we're not doing the conference here, you know, but we want to learn about our ambassadors and supporters' journey. So I really appreciate you share that very important aspect of your life and journey with yoga. And as a teacher, how do you teach or share to anybody who is listening in, the students, how do you suggest that we go deeper with our practice in a daily practice or in a asana practice?
You know, a lot of what I do is actually, a lot of the time that I spend is studying, and I teach, apart from the asana classes that I teach every morning a class, a chanting class, but we also learn some philosophy in that class. So we started at the beginning of the pandemic with the Yoga Sutras. We went through all of the Yoga Sutras, learned how to chant them one by one, and then went through all the meanings. It took about a year, almost a year.
Wow.
To do the whole thing, but every day there'd be a short discussion about Yoga Sutras from the beginning to the end. At the moment, we're doing a text by Shankaracharya, which is called Yoga Taravali, which is another text more about experiential, so some experiential of yoga, and so it gives you the perspective that on the Yoga Sutras from someone that has experienced those higher states of yoga. So we'll go through other texts. So a lot of my time is spent talking about philosophy, and that will just that looking into these things and studying, and preferably with somebody that's talking to you rather than just reading, because it's a different process learning from a teacher, which is what I've done to learn directly from teachers. It's a different process than reading in books. You miss things you don't understand fully, but the teacher will, you ask questions, your misunderstandings will be corrected. One of my teachers was telling me this week, actually, he's a Sanskrit teacher. He said he had a very great teacher. He said, my teacher always said, don't come down, don't bring these ideas down to your level. You pray and you focus and you try to bring yourself up to the level of the teachings. So what we've seen a lot in the West is that we've brought yoga down to our level. And we haven't tried to reach up to that level of what is yoga really about. Of course, many people are not interested. They just want to work out. But after doing yoga for some time, there'll be some questions. So we should continue to try to lift ourselves up to the level of the teaching, not the other way around.
Yeah, I love that.
So I tell my students, just be interested in these things, be interested in the other aspects of yoga. How do we incorporate all these different things? How will it, what are the benefits? These are benefits that you receive. It's not about, it's not an imposition. It'll open up your eyes. It'll open up your mind. It'll really affect you in a really positive way. So if you have that time to spend.
Yeah.
And one more thing about the dana, I wanted to go back to that when you were discussing about seeing, these small videos that you're doing of people who you're affecting. My own experience going and seeing those kids that we've donated to before, it makes it so rich to see the joy and how much happiness, and how they're so appreciative for even a little bit. You can't see that very often, that the kind of appreciation that you get just from what you feel is doing very little, maybe they really, so it's really a joyful thing. So I know from your videos it's like that. So again, what I'm getting at is that it's good for us.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So
yeah, I totally agree. I always bring back the light of these kids' eyes and women's eyes. That stays with me, and that appreciation and hope and energy that you can give but with small money. It's unbelievable. So
we can see that in you. So we can see that they've passed it on to you.
Yeah, look at these eyes, right? Big eyes.
Yeah, but we can see it in you also from your experience with them, and that's,
well, that keeps me going. But well, finally, Andrew, so with all this that you feel for India and your spiritual journey, now you are your teachings, you're offering that on June 20th, right? Or 20th.
2 days, actually. I think it's the 19th and 20th. We're doing 2 sessions.
Yeah. Could you share that a little bit?
Yeah. So on the 19th and 20th, I'm doing a class with Miami Life Center. We're doing it via Zoom. I'm going to teach some of the Shanti mantras, which are mantras that come from the Vedas, and usually one particular mantra will be attached to the beginning of an Upanishad. Within that one Shanti mantra, which is relatively short, or it's short, there'll be all the philosophy will be contained in a very condensed form. And really the Upanishad, maybe a long Upanishad, is an expansion of that. You can even reduce the Shanti mantra just down to Om. So Om has all the philosophy within it itself. When you expand it, you get more. So these Shanti mantras are very beautiful. So I'm going to teach 3 of those. And the first session, I'm going to explain a little bit about pronunciation, Sanskrit pronunciation, just some simple techniques and things that we can understand to help pronunciation, because it's very difficult for many people when they first start trying to chant these beautiful mantras to really be able to pronounce them well. So we'll spend the first half of the first class going through that, and then a couple of classes, the rest of that class and the next class, learning some Shanti mantras and looking at where they come from and a little bit about philosophy.
Yeah.
Those, yeah.
And you are donating so generously for Yoga Gives Back as a part of International Yoga Day effort. So thank you so much for that, and thanks
That's
for
fine.
my Life Center to hosting it too.
I felt with the chanting also, we never ask for money for teaching these kind of things. So my teachers never ask. Of course, I give them money. I give them money for teaching me, but they never ask. So it's a class that I didn't feel comfortable saying, let's charge this much or that much. This is before we decided we were involved with Yoga Gives Back. So when the opportunity came just to give everything to Yoga Gives Back, we thought that's great. So that made me feel very good about, charging. So the fact that all that money is going to go, to these things that you're doing is really excellent.
Yeah,
so it's making me happy, very happy. Yeah,
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah.
And really appreciate taking your time and sharing. It was a very deep in a little bit of a spiritual lesson of where we should uplift ourselves to. And I love to hear more, but everybody who's listening in, you can follow Andrew Joyce Yoga, or join him on 19th and 20th this month at Miami Life Center.
Go to Miami Life Center.
Yeah, and it sounds wonderful. So thank you so much again, and I wish I had more time, but maybe next time. But thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah,
really
you're welcome.
Appreciate all your support. Namaste.
Thank you, Kayoko. Yeah, very
Thank
happy.
you, everyone.
Okay, namaste. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.